Right, I'm going to start this little painting now on this pebble with the bridge and everything. First of all, I'm just going to mix some titanium white with some ultramarine blue and some cobalt blue. A mixture of the two, basically. Get some white to that. Just mix it down there so I get the colour that I'm after. Quite a bright, vibrant day today in this picture. So I'm just wanting to get two different kinds of blue. A darker one and a lighter one. That's about the tone I'm after, so a bit more white to that. There. That's what I'm after. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So we've got a darker one and a lighter one. Right, so with the lighter one, first of all, I'm just going to come down in here and just paint the bottom of the sky. Just above where the rolling hills are, with some of that colour. Trying to be careful not to go over the hills. Just put that in there. Let it go right above where that tree is, and on the top of the roof there. That's the one. There we go. Let's put some of that in. Yeah. I'm happy with that. Got to think about these edges as well. Right on edge, I want that little bit of colour as well. I want to blend the darker colour down to this lighter colour. So get darker at the top of the sky, get lighter as it comes down. There we go, so into the dark blue. And then at the top, I'm just going to have to hold that at a different angle so it's just a bit easier for me. Sometimes where you hold the stone can just make it that bit easier to do. Try to get that top edge in there. That's all I'm bothered about, just at this time. Don't matter if you go slightly over, you'll be fine. It has a tendency of happening. You can just redefine it. There. Right, so I'm trying to blend that into that wet paint that's underneath. So it goes from light to dark. Slightly mix of it because it's still quite wet. And that way you get a little gradient between the two colours. And you've not just got a flat sky with one shade of colour in it. It looks natural. Something like so. Yeah? And then I'm going to get, while it's still dirty, I'm going to get some white on the brush. So it's not quite white because it's still blue in there. And then just along in here, a distant cloud, something very far away. Get a clean brush, clean small brush, and I can just blend that gently, which is what I'm wanting. I just want it to look distant, really far away. A little cloud far, far away. Yeah. Something about like that I'm happy with, that's fine. Now, while I've got that colour on the brush, I'm just going to use some of the blue again, but also a little bit of alizarin crimson. So I'll mix that in the centre because I'll be using that colour throughout. Nice purple colour. Mixture of both blues with crimson. That's good, I'm happy with that. And then a bit of green. A little bit of green to that. Yeah. Happy. Now I've got a glass of water here, so anytime I want to just thin it down slightly, I just use the tiniest bit of water in with that. Just to thin it a tiny bit. There. So just with that colour that I've just mixed up, it's like a lavender colour, I'm just going to go in here and I'm just going to put some paint on the tops of this hill. There. Just like so. Oh yeah. That's nice. And it comes across the top of the bridge. So be careful not to go over the bridge area. That's why I drew it out basically, so that I've got a good guide there, not to go too far. And then the trees that I put in as well. So just in there's another little tree, I'll just go above that. That's good. Happy with that. Just above there. Sometimes you can change the angle of it just to, because I went a bit over then. You can actually pull it back off again, like I just did, and reintegrate it properly. So I want a nice edge on there. Right to there. That's where the tree is going to be, you see. So I'm happy with that. That's for the back hills in there. I want it to have a bit of contrast, so I've done it nice and dark enough to contrast with the bridge itself, and it works, does that. So I'm just going to get a bit more green into that. And also right, so that colour I've just mixed up, the green and the lavender mixed together. I just want to use that colour with a tiny bit of black, just a bit of black to it, smallest amount, just in there, just to darken it off enough, something like that. I'll give that a try, see what it looks like. And then where them trees were, I just want to put it in a bit darker for the trees. That comes slightly above there, you see. That's nice. You might want to use a smaller brush even than this when you're doing these little details. But it doesn't matter too much if you go over the bridge or whatever. You can either rub it off. If you're too late to rub it off before you notice it, you can just paint over it. Just take a couple of coats, that's all. So there's a nice tree in there, and then I can just have some darker tones towards the base of it. Whoops, that was an accident, you see. I just rubbed it off with my finger. Trying to get some dark now in the main shadow areas. Just in there. So it stands out. There. That's nice. These trees are quite dark, and there's one just popping up over the top of it, just there. And then we've got one over here as well. So I'm working from top down with this one. Over the top of that bridge. We'll come back a bit later and even add a bit more contrast to them if we like. That's fine. So I'll come over a bit on there and I'll show you what to do in a short while once it's dried. To stand out, and some contrast. Should be a bit darker than what's behind them basically. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Now where I've gone over there, See it just there? You can actually grab some white paint. Just a little bit of white paint in there. And then you can just sort of like go back over that. Just to define the top edge of this bridge. It's quite important. Anywhere you've gone over, just put a tiny bit of white in. That's it. Went a bit too far with that. There. Good. Okay. Right, now for the bridge itself, I want a bit of that colour tone I'm going to use for that. So what I've got is, I've got some brown, Van Dyke brown, or burnt umber, whichever you like, tiny bit of crimson to that, so brown and crimson, and a little bit of black. And then with that, I just want to mix some white. I want it to be quite light, I don't want it to be dark. It's miles too much on the brush, you see, so I'll go right over into this pile of white. I'll just lighten it up there. Because it don't want to be bright dark at all. It's to be nice and light. Just with a bit of colour. See what I'm doing, just to get it light. I put a bit too much on my brush there, didn't I? Got a bit carried away. See, it's easy done. And with that, I just go over the bridge. Oops. Just in there. Add some of that colour. Starting off with the lighter colours. And it's reflected into the water too. So make sure I do that. Might want it just a bit stronger. So just a little bit stronger, that colour tone. Where the bridge goes round. I'm doing this a bit transparent. You'll still see the pencil through it. But it just gives me a guide anyway. I can always put want to put shadows and everything into them areas, so it'll stand out nicely. There. Let's add some colour to this bridge. A bit more dark in there. So. Something like that. And then that in the water. I also want to indicate that's come around there. A bit of that colour in there. There we go. Now use a darker tone, just a little bit more of that darker tone. And just underneath where bridge is there, just want to darken it off, you know. Same in there, just want to darken that off. Might need to be a bit darker still, so it stands out. Don't get it first time anyway, you can always make it darker. no problem with that. Just there. And that'll help to just define that edge. Any water. Whatever's above, you have down below. So same here, a little bit of that darker colour in there. Something like that, but you can see how I'm actually mirroring everything, making it mirror in the water. See that? The water lines around there. Great stuff. Right, so just going to get some titanium white. I've still got a little bit of the brown on the brush. And with that, I'm just going to come over the top of this and just lighten it up a bit now. Bit of a lighter tone to it. Just come right into where you put that colour. Just brighten it up a little bit on the sunny side. Same in water. Just brightening it up a little touch so that when I put my shadows in, it'll stand out more. It'll stand out better and stronger. There we go, I'm happy with that. Right, so I'm gonna again go back and darken some of them shadows underneath the bridge a bit, just to add a bit more contrast. Just in there. Very delicate work, but it's really relaxing to do. Really relaxing. Super therapeutic. Just darken the shadows up a tiny bit. Right, I'm just going to get some of that brown colour that I used for the bridge. Same stuff, but a bit darker. See it in there, just a bit darker. There. It's a bit darker than what I've used for the bridge. Just a bit. And then where the buildings are, just gonna come in and go on the roof. Use my brush that way, that'll probably be better. Don't have to be perfectly straight when you do this. Not at first especially, because you can always alter it. Just don't panic. Relax with it. And do that a bit darker still, I think. Just in there. A tiny bit darker. There. Just the roof. Right, something like that, and then just a lighter tone, a bit lower down, just in here. I'm just going to go right over them windows. I only put them in so that you guys could really see what we're going on. Come right down and over that bridge fence that's there too. Just a bit, and then underneath there, Start putting some details in a bit later. We're not worried yet. You can put it in a bit transparent like I have done, and you can still see the windows and stuff then. A bit more darker for this little roof here. Just a bit darker on that. That's a tiny bit darker than I wanted it. So we'll see how it dries, and I can sometimes just wash it out by going into it again. Something like that. Happy? Now the lighter tone again. Back and forwards between the two tones. I want this to be predominantly lighter than this side. I'm just going to put straight white on end, and it'll mix with that colour that's on there, and it'll still stand out in front then. So it's a separator by not doing it too dark. This area and this area stand apart, separate. They're part of the same building, but it's a bit light. It's hitting the light a tiny bit more. Good. See that? Get in there. Right, let's get on with this. I'm just going to mix some lemon yellow and some sap green together. Lemon yellow, sap green. Just use a tiny bit of water with that. I want to use it quite thick, but I can get a tiny bit of water to that just to make it pliable for me. This is the light tone of the green. And then just up in here, just going to add some of this. Do it in a transparent way. You'll still see where all your shadows are and stuff then. I'll leave a few gaps because I don't want it to be all the same. I'm going to change something green in part area. Just put some green in and put some water to where you've put it above, put a little bit below. Just some of that green in there. And then a bit of this up in here too. Right, then I'm going to go into a little tiny amount of crimson, tiniest amount. I'm just going to mix it to side there. Just a bit of crimson in with that green. It'll give us a thorny greeny colour. There. Something about like that. So use the yellow, the crimson and the green together just to change the twang of the green. So it's not just the same. Tiny bit of water again to that. There, that's something like what we're wanting. And then just in here, I can just change that so that there's some of this other tone in there as well. Leave some areas white, just white, where it's going to have the light, sunlight highlighting it. Just here and there, it's nice to do. But stick some of them dark, different tones in. That's the one. Happy. Same in water, do the same there. Few of them same colours in water. Couple up there maybe. Right, that's good. Now I'm just going to make a darker green, which will be either black into that very same colour that we've just used, just there for the shadow tone. So I know where the separation for the bushes is. There's some dark behind that bush. There, just in there. Because I'm doing it while it's still wet, it'll bleed together. A few little bits of dark in there. Same in here. Not too much, just enough so you get some shadows for them bushes. I just went right over then, right too far over. So I just licked my finger and I just rubbed it. That'll get rid of that. And then I can go back in here and just go to the edge. Same in the water. Some shadow in there. There we go. Now at that stage, I'm just going to go and I'm going to just darken that off a bit first. Just see how good and dark that is. That'll give contrast to the bridge, against the bridge. Just up in here, darker areas in the trees. Again, so that the bridge stands out a bit more. And I can use that lighter green and just put a little bit up in there on that river bank, or bank that's just sitting right back there. It's good defining all these darks though, because you use the darks to really indicate the light's good. Oops, went too far with that. That sorts that out. Brilliant. Right, so I can get a little bit more black again. And this time I'm going to use a smaller brush actually. A brush with a very small tip, a tiny tip to it. And then use this dark colour I've got in here, this dark green. Just along the water's edge. Just in here. I'm going to put a dark line for the river bank. I might need a bit more black in with that for it to work. There. And that comes right through. If you remember from before, I'm just doing it a little bit darker underneath where the banking is in the water there, and then you can blend that up into the shadows there. See that? Just bring some of them darks down. So you can see it's starting to define the bottom edge now of the bank. Also want to use a few darks just up at the tops of this, just to define the odd bush that's, you know, in shadow, and it also make the other bushes stand out more too. Pull that edge down. Let's separate this house from this house. Same at that side there. A few more shadows in. There. Getting good. Let that dry and I'll probably put some more dark back on this edge again as well, just to make it stand out a tiny bit more. Put a little bit along the bottom of the bridge, just there in the water. Pull a few little ripples. This is in the water, you see. This reflection down here. Nice little reflection in water. So you want to see movement over the top of that. It is a river after all, so we've just got that little bit of movement going on now in the water, but it's still got the colour of the bridge in there. Now I just want to use some of that blue that we used. some of this blues for the sky, a bit of cobalt and a bit of ultramarine, same as we used before. I'm going to get some white, mix that colour to that, because we need a bit of this colour down in the water too. There, something like that. Now, just to the very top edge of here is where you're going to see it. Might need a bit more white to that. Just let some of it show through where water is there. And a bit over there too. Just there. That's good. Now, just need to actually put some more of that brown tone in. With the light brown. Just this colour here. Get some of that. I'm just going to stick some in there for this house reflection, for the house and everything. It's down in there. Right. Couple of shadows here and there, like these for the bridge. Shadow down in the water there for the bridge. I can just make that little ripple in now in there. Same with the house. I can come in and where that house shadow is there, follow it down to this point, and then just dot a few little ripples in. And then it just breaks off into there, it's nice. Something like that. Yeah, happy. Something about like so. Let's sorted it out. Right, so now I am going to just put a little bush in at this side here. A little bush. While I've got that green going. So again, the light green and the dark green mixed together. And then just in here, a little bush. In the foreground. This is in front of the water, so I'm just putting the light in first. A bit of that light in. And then I can let that dry and then put some dark over the top of that. Right, now I'll let that dry. I can just put a few little bits of highlight in the trees because they're just dark at the moment, so you won't be able to see this, I'm sorry about that, but it's just the angle I'm having to do it at. Just put some little highlights up on that tree. They will dull down. Just gives it a bit of something. Leave it dark in shadows, it'll stay looking good. And where you've got it too light in certain areas, you can just go back with the dark and just darken that off. Just in there. Just a little bit of green. Same on that one. There. Right, so soon enough we're going to be doing a nice fine line now. So I'm going to use my little liner brush, my script liner brush. I'm just going to get some dark on that. This is good for doing eaves and stuff like that. Just along there, we've got the eave. Starts from there. And it goes along. And it casts a shadow. And then just up in here, we've got the windows. There. two there, 1, 2, 3, and 1 there too. So just put some little indications for windows in there. Same there, same in here, 1, 2, another one just there. Now if you do, like I've put that one a bit too low, a bit too high, sorry. So I'll just paint it down a bit lower. And then when it's dried I can put some light in there just so that it's not too high. It's simple enough to do. There we go. Now again use a bit of that dark. And just in here I'm going to define this edge for the roof. Sharpen that off a bit. Put a little bit of dark on the top edge of the roof. There. Right, and then just here and there I'm just going to pull some indications of little roof tiles. Very fine lines. Just an indication though, I don't want to be too detailed. There. And then with any highlights we need, we can put them on afterwards without any problem at all. There. Now when I highlight that roof, it'll stand out nice. I'll put it a bit closer so you can see. It loses focus, you see. There, we're getting there. So I'm getting the bulk of it done first, and then I can go back in and do plenty of detail, you see. Now, darken off a couple of these shadows. Like this one here. This one. There. Now there's a little fence just... Right, so there's just a little fence just underneath that. So I'm just going to use some dark. And just in here. Oh. I lost it then. Got a little wobble on. Wipe it off quick, there's no problem with it. Got a little wobble on it, it's not a big deal. Start of this fence now here. Nice fine point on your brush. Really nice fine point. And then straight through there. You almost don't hold your breath when you do this, it's that tiny. Just an indication of the fence. A few little fence posts going down. Something like that. That'll do. And then just a few more little details here and there. I'm going to go right across the top of the bridge, just with a fine line. There. It just makes it sit out a bit more, and then just go right underneath it. Don't use a solid line. I'm letting it break. Don't want it to be too perfect. All the way across. There, see that? Happy. Now it's just a little drain pipe. Just tidy that edge. Drain pipe. Just down here. I'll do. Right then. Now I'm just going to put some of these indications for the windows in the reflections of the water. Don't want them to be perfect at all, because the water's moving, you see, so there. Good. Right then, so I can just come back now, get some really nice light yellow, just mix it with some sap green, light yellow, sap green and white. I want it to be really quite bright. See that in there? I want it to be quite bright colour. And then with that, just going to come up on the top of these where this bush is going to be, just in there. So it's got a nice green top to it, and I'll let that dry and put some darks in there. Go. Also, trying to put a bit of that blue while we've got it. The light blue. And I just want to put a few little bits just on here where this water starts rippling under the bridge. A bit more white to that. A few bits of that blue in there, just showing through here and there in the water. I'll have that area again, what I did before. Melts into reflections, you see. Hope that stands out to you all. Just a little bit of blue under the bridge. Good. Right. Right. Now, just a bit of dark under this part of the bridge here. Get it spawned. There. That's good. So once it's dried, you can always keep going back in and enhancing areas to make the bridge stand out a bit more. A few more shadows. Dark green I'm using. To really enhance these shadows. Just up in here as well. The lower parts of the bushes you get more shadows. Darker shadows as well. Right, got a light green bush just here at the side of this house. Just pop that in there. goes right in front of that fence. So it blocks off where the fence is. That's where the fence finishes. Just in there, I'll put a bit of dark underneath that. So good and dark. Bring that dark up into the light area. And I want it to be quite dark. There's another bush here that's quite dark as well, so put that in. Just on that water's edge, just in there. And then I'm going to reflect a bit of that in water. Good. Don't kill everything on the water's edge though, because that lightness is what's giving you your indication for the water. And then when I go back to the blues, the light blue, there, and just make it a bit lighter over the water there. Just a bit lighter. A few little bits of ripples and stuff. Also have to put some shadows just down in here. It actually breaks itself in two, does this bush. So I'll put a shadow behind that part. Start, get rid of a lot of that colour, and then that should just allow me to come in here, put a bit of darker out base of this part of it, and then dot it up to the top and leave some of that green showing. Don't just cover it up. And just in here, some bits of dark coming up, like so. Good. Bit more green. Light green. Just here. Just to reflect it there then. Just doing all the little touch-ups and stuff now. Just in here, set it too light. And just put some indications, some little darker spots in. Look like stone even. There. Bring some of that down so you can see it through the fence. Something about like that. Happy? Right, just a couple of little things left to do, and I want to call it done. Just on this bridge, put some little indications. Get it just a bit darker than the bridge colour. Just here and there I want to put some little indications of stones showing. just on there. See that? It's not much darker, just a little tiny bit.